Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode next Sunday. It's your boy V Moss. Bo, good morning.
How y'all doing out there? Good morning.
Timestamp today is a rainy April 1st. Lot to talk about. A lot going on this week. Very special week coming up. Let's get right into it. So I had the pleasure of going to a dope event here in Philly. Homie Matt Skillz from Richmond, Virginia legend, pioneer in the rap game, specifically in Virginia, has been hosting these events in DC, Philly, Norfolk, and Richmond. His podcast, Hip Hop Confessions, and also a trivia game, Hip Hop Questions. Dope event. I think one dope thing to note about the event is like it's very much tailored for our age group. So it started at
Mm.
7, 8, it was done around 10, 10:15, 10:30, and everyone was ready to go home. So my man Skillz knows his audience for sure. And shout out to our homie Stevie P, former guest, our guy. He actually is involved with the promo company that was putting these events on. So got to see him as well. But highlight for me, obviously getting to connect with Skillz. Like I've met Skillz before, just from being from Richmond and being in Richmond, but got to chop it up with my guys, PD Crack, Freeway, Rockefeller Legend, State Prop Gang, Chain Gang.
That's
Uh,
wild.
it was dope, man. I mean, it was really dope to see them perform Flipside because Freeway actually had a 20th anniversary concert for the anniversary of the release of his debut album, Philadelphia Freeway. But I missed that. It was the weekend that something important in my life happened, so I wasn't able to make it. um, but it was dope. It was dope to see them do that since I missed that. It was dope to talk to them. Like I've actually met Freeway before because he came to a Temple basketball game. But to be in the room with those guys and
Okay.
be able to touch base with them was cool. Another fun fact, actually, Freeway and Skillz have a song that came out in the mid 2000s. That's actually the music video was shot by our other guests, Show Me. So it's like all of the worlds, right? Like
Really?
we're just everyone's connected, and it's just like it's very intentional that we're
Yeah.
in this space right now, bro. Like we're connected. Like it's great energy.
I love it.
So next thing I want to talk about, big week for my man DJ Drama. Huge week, best week ever, low key. Like just the way he did. Did you catch those juice themed videos that he posted this week?
No, I miss those.
So basically, he just released his album. I'm really like that, but he took like 4 or 5 scenes, like iconic scenes from the movie Juice with Tupac, one of those '90s cold hood classics, and basically just redid them. But he had the original cast members in these clips. Like they were directed by Jim Jones, but they were very much like very well done and just like very much of the nostalgic callback, which I think is very popular right now, right? Just to like touch that, to call back on that energy. I thought it was a really dope, creative thing. But obviously, in addition to him releasing his own album, still a lot of love for DJ Drama and Gangsta Grillz because of Tyler, who
Yes.
also released this week the estate sale version of Call Me When You Get Lost with some bonus tracks or leftover tracks that he really wanted to make sure that everyone heard. I mean, I love that album. I mean, listen to it again. I didn't remember how much I liked that album. I don't remember when we first heard it. I have my favorites on there, but like listening to it as a like all the way through again with the new songs added was really a dope experience yesterday in the office.
I
Juggernaut
didn't.
song. I think that
Yeah.
Dogtooth and Wharf Talk are my favorite of the new ones. What do you think?
Okay. I didn't realize it had been a couple years since the album was released. I haven't listened to it in order yet, but I would say from the original album, the favorites for me are like "What's Your Name" and "Hot Wind Blows" because I really like Tyler and Wayne together. Of the new tracks, I also agree that I really love Wharf Talk. Um, Big fan of Dogtooth, but I think one of my other favorites are is one of Sorry Not Sorry.
Gotcha.
And the
Gotcha.
video for that was crazy because he did all of his eras.
Yeah. Yep. I remember that. And that's just both of those examples are just a really cool space that we're in that I think should be considered when we start to evaluate or give commentary on music in our current era, right? Like because of the technology, I think it gets a bad rap. Oh, streaming numbers, people don't get paid. Oh, streaming numbers, everyone's just putting out music so they just have a like quantity over quality. Oh, all of this is just like a bunch of people just, it's so much easier to make music and get it out. Oh, it's not as good. But like when you have people like those two guys who are like putting energy and effort into the whole creative content world around the music, like because like Tyler specifically, not only did he have the videos for all these new songs, he had those like one pagers where he like talked about them and what they meant to him and stuff like that, which I thought was great. Like he was very active on Twitter, like just talking about them, randomly tweeting lyrics and stuff from the new songs and asking people what they thought about, which I thought was dope. So I think we should give our artists
I
that
love that.
have success right now more credit for being that whole total package in terms of, you know, being able to be creative and all these different types of content that we can create around the music.
Absolutely agreed. And like it's no secret to anybody who listens to this podcast, I'm a big Tyler fan, but so much of that, you know, he's his own person, but I feel like he is so influenced by the artistry of like Pharrell and Chad and how they go, how thoughtful they are about their work. And that carries on through the work that he does. So it's really impressive to see.
Yeah, for sure. And so also before we leave Gangsta Grillz, just for everyone, heads up that this coming Tuesday, April 4th, will be the anniversary of Pharrell dropping his own Gangsta Grillz, which I think is a cult classic. I think obviously us Pharrell fans really loved that project because it was like Pharrell rapping, and it was very surprising at the time to have someone like him get a Gangsta Grillz when we was talking about typically Gangsta Grillz was T.I. and Jeezy and those guys. So shout out to P and DJ Drama. Just shout out to DJ and Drama in general, man. Like, fun fact too, DJ Drama is from Philly, like, which is like, I don't think people realize that because he's been so ingrained in the Southern culture, especially in Atlanta, but Philly guy.
I mean, you can kind of hear it in the accent, but
True.
I was thinking about what icon he is this week. So
Yeah.
mad love to DJ Drama.
Yeah, DJ Drama's having a good couple years, like, because you know he's got Uzi signed to his label. He's got Jack Harlow signed, so it's like it's big numbers around here.
Yeah.
Shout out to DJ Drama. He shared my tweet to his story like last week. That was great. My guy.
Okay. That's funny. That's the loudest reaction I've given you yet.
Okay, last thing before we get into today's conversation. A lot of big anniversaries this year, celebrations. So that includes the 20th anniversary of the launch of the BBC Ice Cream clothing line. That was such a big deal for me and my friends back in like the early 2000s. Like, man, we were just on the website all day, just looking at stuff that we would never be able to buy because the hoodies, shirts were like starting at $90. Like, it was crazy. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like you went through the effort. You got to kind of like lean back and show the people what you got on.
Listen, so I have here, we're gonna do a little show and tell here. I literally have the one and only BBC ice cream t-shirt that I purchased. I still have it in the plastic bag. I literally cannot remember when's the last time I wore it. It has all of the like original packaging on it. You can see it says Billionaire Boys Club on the plastic. It's got the rocket art logo. You know, it's got the famous slogan, "Wealth is of the heart and mind, not the pocket." It's a large, like I don't know why I had a size large t-shirt, but this was 2006. But the funny
I want to emphasize,
bro.
I want to emphasize that you pulled the shirt out as if to put it on, and you're like, "Nah, I can't take it out the packaging." He has a lot of respect for his gear.
I don't know. Maybe I'll wear it. Maybe I'll wear it to something in the water or something. I don't know. Maybe I don't. It's just
Perfect outlet.
This shirt has been in this package through like 3 different moves in 3 different cities. Like it's intense. So the story behind that shirt is like they obviously, when BBC first came out, it was very like hard to get a hold of. Like it wasn't in like it's in DTLR and stuff now, or it was like, but before when it first came out and we wanted it, like you couldn't just walk to the place like down the street and go get it. So, but of course there was a store in the 757. So while we were at Hampton, like beginning of junior year at Hampton, me and my roommate went to Commonwealth, a store that was in Norfolk that we knew had it. And shout out to my roommate from college, my man Doug, drove down. And the craziest part about it is I'm 100% sure that Pusha T's wife, current wife, Virginia, was working in the store at that time. Because she went to school with us, and I don't really know her that well. I don't really know her at all, but I recognized her walking around campus, but I also like remember her being in the store, which was dope. So shout out to them, shout out to Virginia, shout out to Pusha. Also shout out to this IG account, DOZ Archives. They posted some screenshots of the website, which were really nostalgic this week, which is really dope. Just remembering how ahead of the time the website was too. Like it was very interactive. It had lots of great, cool images, but it was also like one of the first websites where I felt like, yo, they had music playing when you went to it. It just was at the time that it was developed, it was like the most dynamic, advanced, creative website that I had ever seen.
Yeah. We used to love some music in the background.
Right? You used to do that on like that was a big deal. That was a big deal. MySpace. And
I love it.
Sheesh. All right, cool. Today's the first. We talked about a lot of anniversaries. I guess you consider this an anniversary, but the anniversary of Pharrell Williams' birth, his birthday coming up on April the 5th. Very, very big birthday. Big 5-0.
Absolutely.
That's crazy to say, really. Like, 50 years old, like,
I just think it's so poetic that he's turning 50 the same year that hip hop's turning 50. That's amazing to me. And like I mean, I've said it a number of times on this podcast, like he's just changed my taste as a fan of music, my perspective on music. So like it's certainly a celebration for me.
It's a celebration for a lot of people. And, I mean, we'll talk about some of these songs that we're going to go through. But, a lot of people that we're going to mention, not a lot, but like a few of the people that will mention the songs that we're going to go through are part of that Pharrell's Kids group, which I think is important and shows just the legacy of what he's meant to so many people in like 5 decades of being a creative person and making music in the space.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. So what we're going to do is he's turning 50 this year, but 10 years ago when he was turning 40, he was about to be on this kind of resurgence revival, this run where he was kind of like on his own, doing his own music, but also producing a lot of really important music or writing a lot of really important music at that time, which is really cool perspective when you think about how 10 years before that, there was when they really, really went on this crazy run that launched him into superstardom. So to think about from 2002, 2003, going into 2012, 2013, and how much they had grown and what the work that they had done, like to really look at how the energy was shifting and he was resurging in 2012, 2013, I think it's a good moment for us to go back and look at some of the dope music that got made or released during that time. So Pharrell reminding us of his genius in 2012, 2013. We're going to go through a few of our favorite songs. Vogue is going to go first.
I'm going to kick us off. I'm actually going to start with Sweet Life. um, by the one and only Frank Ocean. I think this is kind of emphasizing the point that Vaughn made about, I would say that everyone of prominence from the kind of like Odd Future camp is one of Pharrell's kids. I think Tyler is the most directly connected because I know they have a friendship, but Frank definitely falls under that genre too. And Sweet Life, I would say for me was a standout single on his debut album. Channel Orange was a really highly anticipated project. And it was exciting to see Pharrell work with somebody from that camp, work with somebody that we were all really invested in already, but still had a lot of potential, which I feel like he has lived up to in the years that followed.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really dope album. No skip. I don't think there's no skips on that album. Like that's a really front to back solid album to hear 4 Count P on that and be like intrigued and while you're listening to the album is dope. Pharrell actually called he said he called Frank Ocean like the Black James Taylor, which I think is a unique kind of characteristic like way to characterize Frank Ocean's space in the music world. I think that's pretty cool, and that's like actually like high praise considering how much of a legend James Taylor is. But I think we both like that song because that song sounds like it could be on like In Search Of, right? It could be.
Yep.
It's very much like that funky R&B like that we love from that album.
Yeah, for sure. What you got?
All right, so the next one that I'm gonna go to is a really I'm pretty sure that many people haven't heard of this song, or I don't know. The song is called "The Stars Are Ours." The stars are ours. Let me make sure that everyone knows what I'm saying. It's by Mayer Hawthorne, and so that's from an album called "Where Does This Door Go" that was released in 2013. For those of you who don't know Mayer Hawthorne, he's an artist that is based out of LA but is born in Michigan. Who, was in this kind of in a similar space as like Robin Thicke in terms of being a white guy but doing this kind of soul music. And that's what kind of like how he got his start. And so getting connected with Pharrell, he actually had 3 songs on that album. But I love The Stars Are Ours because it sounds like we said, Sweet Life sound like it could be on In Search Of. This song sounds like it could be on Fly or Die. Like it's very up tempo. It's got like a little bit of a guitar instrumentation in there that sounds like very much like Fly or Die or some other nerd album or song. But I also wanted to mention, like I said, Stars Are Ours is one of 3 songs that P produced on this album, and I really like all of them. There's one specifically though that is like a really dope song called "Reach Out Richard," which has got like Steely Dan vibes. Like one of my favorite Steely Dan songs is "Peg" because my godfather loves that song. He used to play it for me as a kid. But that's a personal song that is like Mayer Hawthorne giving a tribute to his dad, and he basically talked about how he didn't know if he wanted to put it on there because it's such a personal song, but Pharrell actually like really pushed him and said, "Yo, this is my favorite song of the 3. Like, you got to make sure you keep that on the album." But like he basically sings to his dad and says, "All I ever wanted to do is be as good a man as you." So that's it's a really cool song. Like I think all 3 of the songs that Pharrell did for Mayer on the album. The other one's called "Wine Glass Women," which is dope. There's also a non-Pharrell produced song that has a feature from Kendrick Lamar, which is on that album, that's just dope. So overall, great project, great like production from Pharrell. But "The Stars Are Ours" is my favorite out of those 3.
Okay. I love it.
All right, Vogue, your turn.
Alrighty. The next song I want to mention is, and this is kind of a long name song, so it's Objects in the Miller. Objects in the Mirror by Mac Miller. This is from the Watchin Movies with the Sound Off album. And actually, like I love this song. I don't think I realized that it was produced by Pharrell for a while. But I think 2 things about this song. I think it does a really good job sonically of displaying kind of like the world building in music that Pharrell is really good at. It feels like it's actually an environment. it has a really like kind of like soft touch to it. But the other thing is something that we talk about a lot on this podcast. Like this album has such a personal meaning for me. I think I was in my first job outside of college, and I was traveling a lot for work, and I would listen to this album as I was traveling. I remember specifically walking a lot with this album on. And so even though I wasn't aware of the production at the time, it is nice to kind of like go back and still see that like Pharrell had influence on this. And like I would say during this time, Mac was just really getting to like towards the height of his popularity. So I don't know that they worked together again over his career, but I love that, like, RIP, we do have something in stone where we can remember him like having that opportunity to work with Pharrell.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not the biggest, like, I appreciate and like the Mac Miller stuff that I like, but I haven't really I'm not too deep in his catalog, but I do like appreciate this song and what it means. And like you said, the way that Pharrell is able to help meet the artists where they're at and help them create something that's going to give them the space to do what they want to do. And it's a really like deep song, and it's like got the imagery of him. It sounds like it's a love song, but it's really him talking about the demons and the addictions that he has to both music and drugs, with the like, which is a theme that people do in music often, is to like use the love like metaphors to describe something else, which I think is dope. So shout out to Mac Miller for that. RIP. My next song is gonna be Rick Ross, Presidential. It's an ode to Rick Ross's favorite Rolex watch, the Presidential. It's from the album God Forgives I Don't, which was released in July 2012. Ross was quoted, and he said, the album is like Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, Notorious B.I.G.'s Ready to Die, or Clips's Laura Willin, any of the albums that I collected and held on to as a kid. So one, I think that's dope that Laura Willin was included in that list. That shows exactly the impact of the album, but also like how much it meant to Ross to be able to have P on this album to help him create it. So my two favorite tidbits about this song. So there's a video of them in the studio making the song, and like Ross asks P, like, how do you keep making all these hits after hits and blah, blah, blah. And so then we always give P credit for his humble P, but the cocky P comes out. And I quote, he says, "It don't come from saying to yourself you want to be hot. A nigga that want to be hot don't know nothing about fire." And yo, like, quote. What a quote, bro. That shit was so crazy to hear him say that. Like, just like, I mean, and obviously he went on to elaborate and talked about some like, like what it really means and how he prepares himself and how he looks at it, and he just wants to keep making dope music, blah, blah, blah. But like the quote, I think that's something that I'm pretty sure that Pharrell does. I think it just kind of depends on who's in the room, right? Like he's depending on, I think he matches the energy. Like if you interview him and you got Rick Ross in there, he's gonna say some slick shit like that. But if he's like, in the studio with Frank Ocean, you might get something else that's more mellow or more, I don't know. Right. That's just that's just an observation. But the second thing is, first of all, the song features dope vocals on the hook from Elijah Blake, so shout out to him. It also has an interpolation of there's a woman in the background saying "get money," like from Biggie and Junior Mafia's. So an interpolation of that. But I Googled this. I had to figure it out because I was like, if you've heard this song, it has a very similar, like, sampled sound to the start of All Right by Kendrick Lamar. And so in my mind, the whole time, I thought that was like a song. Like I thought that was a song that they chopped like that piece of and use it as a sample to make that sound. But what I realized from Googling the other day is that it is actually like a virtual instrument software plugin called Spectrasonics. that has existed since 1994, and P has used probably on a bunch of songs that we didn't even realize, including All Right, where it's like it's not an actual sample of a song that someone made and they chopped it up. Like it's actually like a virtual sound that is he can plug in and it's in the keyboard. And so it's like, oh shit, like that's to me, that's actually pretty dope because it's I think that makes a lot of sense because you don't ever really see in credits that especially those two songs that there's anyone sampled. So it's like, well, damn, like where did that come from? But now we know it's a virtual instrument, which is dope. So in looking last night, I said all right, but I think he also used another sound on that girl, and then I think another one on Gotta Have It from Watch the Throne. So a dope insight to like the creative process that I don't think we ever realized that was a thing. I'm sure there's music nerds and people who are in the studio all the time that would just be like, duh. And I'll just be like, chill.
You know what? If that's a dumb moment for you, come on the podcast. We want to talk to you.
School us. But it literally, when I found it, it's like literally just like a 4-second like sound. And he just it's dope.
Yeah. One of my uncles played keyboard when I was growing up, and I do remember some of those kind of sounds. So that makes sense. Like it's coming together in my mind, but like I had no idea. I also thought it was like a sample.
Right. But it's also that reminds me of this video that was out last week or a couple weeks ago where the guy who was from Gorillaz like was in an interview with Zane Lowe, and I don't know if it was a keyboard, if it was some kind of like digital music instrument or something like that, where it literally had like the melody already preloaded for what's the Gorillaz song? I'm happy, feeling sad. Like the melody for that. Yeah, he pressed the button on there and it played it, but obviously their version of it is much more polished and much more like elaborate in terms of the sonics of it. But they were just laughing because like, yeah, that's where I got it from. It's a preset.
That's hilarious. Crazy. Wow. The more you know.
Yeah. Hey, we're trying to get the people. We're trying to I mean, obviously we're still learning ourselves too, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the next song I have on this list is by another one of Pharrell's kids. Like I said, Tyler gets a lot of credit for being under the influence of Pharrell, but there's also Earl Sweatshirt. I think that they've kind of taken different directions sonically. I'm still a really big Earl Sweatshirt fan, but I think that because his father is a famous poet, I think he's gone a little bit more like art hip hop. But in 2013, Pharrell and Chad produced Burgundy for him off of his, I want to say it was the Chum album. I'm probably getting that wrong. That's another single. But I love this song because it kind of gives me that era Neptunes, like horns. It actually reminds me of a song that I still can't place. But it's a well-produced song. I also, fun fact, found out that Pharrell worked on this while he was taking a break from the infamous Blurred Lines. That's something he just was like, here you go. While he was doing some other business that, turned into a whole thing.
Yeah. It's from the album Doris.
Doris, thank you. My goodness gracious.
Yeah. We'll get into the Blurred Lines part of it in a second. But yeah, that is a dope song. Also features our guy, Vince Staples. Dope. Another dope artist in his own right. Okay. My next song is Wiz Khalifa, Rise Above. I have some friends that I grew up with that are really big into Wiz Khalifa, and I could never really become a big fan, but I like respected the songs I liked or that I've heard from them. But this song, Rise Above, is from the album that came out in December 2012 called ONIFC, Only Nigga in First Class. which is a fitting album title for this song, Rise Above, which is about rising above the haters. Wiz basically talks about interviews. He basically was saying that this song is about haters that he grew up around in Pittsburgh that are now jealous of him. So you get the vibe. It's a lot of stunting, which is like perfect for what Pharrell brings. Like, I love the vibes of the song. It's very chill. It's cool that at the end, his partner at the time, Amber Rose, gets some bars off at the end of the song. But most importantly, the reason why I love the song is just because, you know, we talk a lot about on the show about how P doesn't get the credit for his raps, man. And like most of the time, they're not like outrageously like, oh, that's the best verse I've ever heard in my life. Like, they're more just like very solid. Like, they're consistently very solid. And this is one of my favorite because it's like, again, we're talking about bragging on haters. So it's a really braggadocious P verse where he's talking about his Richard Mille watch. You know, he's talking about SpongeBob toe socks, which is dope because eventually they ended up doing the soundtrack for SpongeBob. But he ends the verse in the way that only P could. And he says, skateboard, I love Chanel. Retweet me, bitch. I'm at Pharrell. like what?
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
It's so simple. And that's like, we think about this is in 2012, right? 2000, that time where like Twitter is like I mean, arguably you could say that that's really like the peak of Twitter, like when it was like, everyone was hype about it. And like, obviously Twitter's existing now and like it's had its ups and downs, but like, I think at that point, that was when all the celebrities were realizing, okay, I got to get on this thing just to have a presence. So I thought that was dope, and that was hilarious. A hilarious way for him to end that song.
That's so funny. You know, this is the first time I'm ever thinking about this, but Liz actually kind of gives me the same kind of demeanor as Pharrell, kind of this quiet cockiness. Because, like, I mean, we do talk about Humble P a lot, but like, there's no part of me that doesn't know that Pharrell knows who he is. He just doesn't have to throw it in everybody's face. And I think that Wiz Khalifa also is able to do that in a really good way, where it's like, I know I'm that dude. I'm gonna like put it in my songs and stuff, but I don't have to carry myself in a way where it seems like I think I'm better than everyone. So I think that that's the perfect pairing of artist energy. To your point about like Pharrell can read the room.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think Wiz definitely has done a lot, but he's cool with just the fact that, you know, I saw something like a couple weeks ago, like him and Amber, I think they took Sebastian to the Kids' Choice Awards. And like, I thought that was a dope moment. Like, they did a cool interview where they showed that, you know, obviously them not being together has not affected them being great parents and raising a kid who's having a good life, which is cool. So shout out to Wiz. Also doing research for this, right? First of all, we talk about how he's like basically raised in Pittsburgh, I think he went to the same high school as Mac Miller. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. But Wikipedia says my man Wiz was born in North Dakota.
What?
Yeah. I don't know if let me make sure I get this right. I don't want to be misquoted here. Wikipedia says that Cameron Jabril Thomas with a Z, interesting, was born in September 1987 in Minot, North Dakota. Interesting. Military parents. That makes sense. Okay.
I was gonna say, is he a military kid? That's literally my question. All right, that makes sense.
Military bases in Minnesota, like what did his parents do to get shipped out there? Sheesh, like that's brutal. I mean, our brother's in the military, right? And so he's had a mixture of places, right? Like us growing up in Virginia, he was stationed at Fort Lee for a long time in like outside of Petersburg, which is like, okay, cool. That's where he started. But but after that, he went to Spokane, Washington, which is like on the other side of the world. Like, not the world, the country. You guys get what I'm saying. You guys know what I mean.
The world for Americans. Um, wow. What is the thing again? The more you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next on my list is the song. Actually, I picked this song because this is the first time that you have Pharrell working with Kendrick Lamar, and it's
Mm-hmm.
Good Kid from. I'm not even going to say arguably because I will not argue with you about this. The best concept album of all time. Shout out to my coworker because we were just talking about this last night. Um, it's definitely the best concept album of all time, and I think that it sets the foundation for a really fruitful relationship. We were just talking about All Right, which obviously is Kendrick working with P again. And so I do not, in the scope of all the songs on Good Kid Mad City, this song does not stand out to me in my memory necessarily, but it is a solid song. Obviously great production, and I love just kind of like the timestamp it creates in the history of Kendrick and Pharrell.
For me, I think this is a perfect example to your point about the concept album of just how consistent all the songs are at moving the story and sticking with the theme for that album. Like it is basically the rap album version of Boys in the Hood. Like I really wish like someone made just like the people that made Bel Air. Like I wish someone would make a movie of like based on this album because I think it would be dope. Like it's very much it's a cinematic, like listening to the music, it's a cinematic experience. And that is definitely personified in this song as well, where he goes through these three really dope verses about all the things that he has to like go and fight against just growing up in Compton, all the things that he has to like overcome to just survive, right? Like I think that that's a really dope, like that's really he does a great job with the imagery of painting that picture in that song. Um, I think it's dope too. Like I read something that pointed out the fact that when you think about the fact that it's called Good City, like he doesn't curse in the song.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is taking that next level of like showing you this is a good kid who is trying to tell you the story about how he's trying to stay on the right path, but at the same time, like there's so many outside sources, outside factors coming to pull him in a different direction.
Yeah, I think even when you hear that track, Pharrell's voice is the first voice you hear.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that kind of goes to this persona that I think Pharrell has of his own making or not, of being like this kind of good guy. I did not think about that connection until you made the point about the no swearing, but it definitely everything seems intentional, which I think everything is with Kendrick. But everything about this song and its creation definitely feels thoughtful and intentional. So one of my favorites.
Yeah, so this is one that we did. We do know that Pharrell interpolated the Roy Ayers "We Live in Brooklyn, Baby" for the hook of that song.
Yeah.
Kendrick actually said that they knocked out 6 records in 2 days when they were working on this album. So I'm pretty sure that we like maybe it's songs that we've heard, maybe we haven't heard them, maybe it's all right, maybe not. But I would love to hear those songs if we haven't heard them already. Since we only got one on that particular album, but definitely love all the K. Dot Pharrell collabs. Again, just put this back in the atmosphere. Let's get K. Dot as a friend and something in the water later this month. All right, cool, done. See you guys there. All right, my next song is another kind of underrated joint. It's called "Look Up" by Daley. I don't really have a lot to say about the song. I just thought it was a really dope song. So Daley is actually a singer from England. This was on his 2013 album, Days and Nights, that actually ended up getting released in 2014, but the song came out in 2013. Another 4 count P, but just a really dope love song. Daley has a really dope voice, but I'm really appreciative of the energy of that song. And the fact that it's not, I think that's something that you kind of see in this time period is like there's a bunch of people who we connected with either for the first time or even the only time in this period that we're talking about now and this resurgence that I thought was dope. All right, what you got?
All right, my last song, my favorite song from this era. I get really excited about this. I'm a huge 2 Chainz fan. It's Feds Watchin'. And I think this is another example of I love when we get funky. Fez Watching, when you see the video, it's like very classic, like flashy rapper, Miami, women, that kind of thing. Pharrell's on the hook with 2 Chainz. It's just like a fun song. There are also horns in this 4 Count P track. I don't remember ever hearing this song in public and not like having a good time.
Yeah,
It's
man.
just a good.
This is when we were outside. Like this is
Oh
maybe
yeah.
I think that's something important that's important to note about 2012, 13, 14 is like peak Vaughn and Vogue in our respective places, but at the same time in very similar spots in life where we were outside. Outside.
I'll never be outside like that again.
But Fez is watching his quintessential, like it's quintessential 2 Chainz luxury raps, man.
Absolutely.
Dreads hang, Mr. Designer Everything. On Dagger song, Mr. Alexander went. Come on, man. Like, just you got to give credit to 2 Chainz for the way he just kind of reinvented himself, man. Like from the Titty Boy days and you know Duffel Bag Boy to like to the 2 Chainz that we know, especially on this song, and since then, like he hasn't missed much. He hasn't missed.
I'm very passionate in that I don't feel like 2 Chainz gets his due. That is a different conversation, but I'm a staunch Mr. Chainz supporter.
So you mentioned the beat, like it's got like cool, dope island vibe. Like it's got like a kind of a ska influence to it.
Yeah.
There was a funny story that I read about this that was basically there was a line in the song where he said, "Put the rocket to that prosecutor," which is like Pharrell and the record label were like, "Yo, you can't say that," and so they changed it to "close the docket" or something like that. When I read that, I thought it was funny because if you remember on the Drink Champs episode, Pharrell was basically talking about how he doesn't even try to get into into any negative stuff. Like he's like he will call the police in a heartbeat, which I thought that made sense, and also call back to that, which I thought was very hilarious. Like hilarious of just P just being comfortable being. I don't want to like he just knows his place. You just gotta know everyone know their role. Everyone's gotta know their role. I feel him. You gotta know your role.
Hey, it'd be like that sometimes. I was in New York on the metro and I had to get a little help from the police. So, you know,
sometimes you gotta sometimes
they're in the right place. Oh man. Wait, right. Close this out.
Last song for me, very important song, Oceans by Jay-Z. So this is from Magna Carta Holy Grail, which came out on July 4th, 2013. I was about to say July 14th because that's my birthday, but July 4th, 2013. Obviously, mad symbolism in that release date with this album because there's, especially with this song, because Jay is rapping about transatlantic slave trade and colonialism, while also just talking about how he's living this lavish life, white robe on a yacht, but it's in the same water where the slave ships were in. Like this just, it's very much a like, if you think about artists like Jay-Z specifically at that level that try to do songs that are either, you know, caused based or like trying to be, I don't want to say woke, but you know, you get like when you're trying to like have a message to it, that doesn't always come off well. But I feel like the way that he tries to get those messages and talks about those specific topics in this song, I think is a great way because it's very much Jay-Z. It's very much, yeah, I'm talking about being Jay-Z, but I'm also letting you know, like, nah, I'm paying attention. Like I know what I'm talking about. And I thought that was dope. Obviously that like that song is where we got the infamous line, the only Christopher we acknowledge is Wallace, which is like very dope line, very like well known and thought of as
You're not a hip-hop. if you don't know that line.
It's well thought of as like one of Jay-Z's most impactful lines, but like again, that just speaks to him. And this is also, we're talking about 2013 Jay-Z, which is him becoming less reliant on the industry and more self, like building his own machine. And also at this point, he's started to build machines for other people. So he's like continuing, like this is where he feels, I think at this point he feels most comfortable to say these type of things because he's like, all right, cool. I got my money from y'all. I got my own money now. Now let's talk that talk. So shout out to Jay-Z for that. But the crazy part about it is that this song actually was recorded in 2011, and Kanye tried to convince Hov to put this on Watch the Throne, which makes sense because Frank Ocean's on a couple Watch the Throne songs, so that probably was recorded at the same time. But I think it made sense exactly, and I think that that's what Jay-Z says in the interviews, is that he convinced, he already had this idea of this album having the Magna Carta theme and this song being like a very focal point of it. So that made sense that he already had that concept.
Yeah.
But speaking of Frank Ocean, it's really unique. Like we all know Jay-Z as the double entendre, triple entendre, like just guy. But I don't know if we should give him the credit or if anyone deserves the credit. But like speaking of Frank Ocean, like let's talk about the fact that one, he's on the song called Oceans, and his name is Frank Ocean. Like, there you go. Like that's, of course, that's crazy. Duh, right? But then the other thing is when we talk about the only Christopher we acknowledge is Wallace, Frank Ocean's real name is Christopher, and he never goes by that. No one like almost ever calls him Christopher at all. So it's like, are we like, just make you think, like sometimes I don't think that Jay-Z like does, I think everything that he does is very intentional. So like I'm gonna just give them credit for thinking about that because I think that's a really dope perspective, a really cool, whether it's intentional or not, a really cool ironic moment about the whole Frank Ocean's name being Christopher and not acknowledging the fact that his name is Christopher because he goes by Frank, which is like, oh shit. But also, if you think about it, Christopher Wallace also used to go by Frank White, the king. Like, okay, I'm done. It's okay. Too much. It's too much going on, man.
Wow. I don't. Oh, wow. I like my mouth actually opened at the point that he said that. I was like, oh my God, my mind is blown.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Wow. You really put that one together for us, didn't you?
Sometimes I swing and it's out the park. Sometimes I got hits. Last story about this song. So also shout out to my boy Steve. We had a sneaker store back in the day that we actually opened the spring before this album came out. And so we had a party, a July 4th party at the store to like listen to this album, which was dope. Dope crowd. It was a dope environment. We like just that album will always make me think about that time in 2013. Very good times. Shout out to my boy Steve. Shout out to Sneaker Bar. Great times for a great album. And there you have it. Those are our 10 of our favorites from the 2012-13 resurgence of Pharrell Williams. Let's go into a couple that we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
So first off, we wanted to shout out, he's got 4 songs on Miley Cyrus's Bangerz album, which is like, I think all 3 of those were solid, and it was like a moment where she was hot. Like she was everywhere during that time. And I think it only made sense. Like that's what people do. When you're hot, you gotta go CP, at least for a little bit, see what you get.
So I mean, I have a little speech about this era of Miley. I think that Miley Cyrus, for the record, I am a Miley Cyrus fan. But I think that like she got a little flack for this era of her music, the like Bangerz era. She was kind of like dabbling in hip hop. Yes, when you're gonna do that, especially being like, this is her coming straight off being like a Disney kid, her dad's a country music star. I think that this was an interesting way to try to make her own name. But I think in our community, specifically being the Black community, because she eventually kind of deviated to go back to country, um pop, it was kind of seen as like a play for, you know, popularity. So I think that like that left a bad taste in people's mouths. But I actually had a really interesting conversation with a friend when she was hosting New Year's this year, that like when you're that age, Miley had to be like what, late teens, early 20s when she's doing this work. You know, it's about exploring, and I think that it's dope that she got to do that under the quote unquote tutelage of somebody like Pharrell to actually make good, because the music is good. I enjoyed the Bangerz album. Um, it is a good body of work. So I guess this is like my Miley apology statement. She was just like, I mean, we all had that period where like you switching up personas, you're learning who you are, and this was a exploration of that.
And just to make sure everyone knows, like when we're talking about like what Bo is talking about and the differences, the different personas, like the difference between Michael made it Miley and this like Neptunes, Pharrell, Bangerz, Ali is like it's very different. Like it's and I think that was like I think she went so hard with that Michael made it era that this was more of okay, cool. Let me step back. This is almost like her getting into like a Justin Timberlake type like space. Like let me P. This is more like the type of it's still got P. It's still got that like a different feel to it. It'll still like allow me to connect with a specific audience because I'm working with P, but also like this is more, it's more like who she truly is. So I think that's we appreciate the Bangerz album and the work with Pharrell on that album. There is one song, I think that's the song with I don't wanna be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's a song she has on there that P did with Nelly that is
4x4.
I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the track list.
Like my man Nelly be on his hee haw shit, and it's like it's okay, like it's okay. I think you know, I mean, it seems like he's done it enough that it's authentic now. So it's like, hey, hey, let's do it. Like that's cool. And Nelly was in the studio with P around this time. That's when some of those songs that we talked about on episode whatever it was with Nelly and T.I. When he was doing some of those songs from the either the Nelly Mo or the Brass Knuckles album. One of those was probably around the same time as this, so it made sense that he was in the studio with them. So shout out to Nelly. Okay, Vogue.
Ooh.
Here we go. Let me drink some water.
I mean, I'm already sweating.
Can't talk about Pharrell Williams and the year 2013 without talking about three specific songs that were everywhere that you could not go anywhere without hearing. The first one talked about on the show, actually the last episode, is Daft Punk, Get Lucky, which we agree, Vogue, is a great song.
So good. Iconic.
Even though that song was everywhere, you never really got tired of it. It was a good song. I think Pharrell he told a really cool story. I don't know the details, but he basically said he was tired when he got into the studio with them, and one of them gave him some like, I don't know if it was Japanese or I don't know, some kind of herb for energy that really had him in a different zone. That's how he just came up with the legend of the Phoenix lines. And he said he had intentionally just like was giving that to them, but he didn't realize that they were going to keep him on it. But that song ended up being like absolutely amazing. So Get Lucky, one of the three songs, thumbs up. The next one is Blurred Lines, which we've also referenced briefly on the show before. Again, pretty good song. But we have known since 2013 there's been a lot of drama around that song about
I had to comment. Super good.
Yeah, Blurred Lines had its issues with the subject matter.
I just want to say, and we may have said this the last time, in, we are in the time machine going back in time. This song was everywhere. You couldn't go anywhere. You were in the, shopping mall. You're outside. You cannot walk out to your house. You can't turn on the radio without hearing this song. And I think that is a key, no matter how we feel about what ended up being the story of this song. It was absolutely insane for Pharrell's popularity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at, I remember, but I couldn't, I think he's done it twice. I think Pharrell performed before the 2014 NBA All-Star game, which I think is set up by this run, which I think is important to note. But yeah, Blurred Lines was everywhere. Obviously the negativity of the lawsuit with Marvin Gaye's family is a huge black cloud over that song. If you listen to the lyrics and you feel some type of way because of the suggestive inappropriateness of some of the lyrics, I understand that. But it was a smash. That's the point of this conversation, is like in 2013, that song was a smash. Number 2 song on this last 3 songs, Blurred Lines. We're just gonna give it a head nod, not a thumbs up or a thumbs down, just like we see you. Okay, last but certainly not least, in the 3 songs in 2013 that had Pharrell Williams everywhere, Because I'm happy. So this is what I will say about Happy. I thought when Happy first came out, when it was released as part of the soundtrack for Despicable Me 2, I thought it was a cool song, right? Like I thought like the vibes of it were very like, you know, typical Pharrell, getting his sing on, his crooner on. I thought it was dope, you know? I don't think when he wrote it, the fact that it has the N-word bleeped out, I think that shows that when he wrote it, he didn't intend for it to be what it was. I think probably the music people realized like that's a smash. You got to edit that out because we're gonna put this machine behind it. Also because of the fact that it's in a kids movie, right? But at the same time, I thought it was a good song, and I think it just put him in a space, whether for better or for worse, that he didn't necessarily need that song to put him in terms of how big the song became and how much of a like cultural phenomenon it became and it was across the world. Like, I don't think he expected that. And it gives the reaction that and the feelings that people have to that song give one-hit wonder vibes for the song to a person who was a legend already, who had a legendary catalog, who didn't need that song to be a legend.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Fun. You may have to, I agree with everything you said. And I will also say that this song has such a life of its own. I know it's Pharrell's song, but it is like a being of itself for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to continue that thought to say, this song throws me in a blind rage. I've heard this song so many times. Musically, it's well crafted. It is the definition of a well-produced commercial song.
Yep.
But at this point, I've heard so many times, I've heard kids screaming it. Like, Vogue loves the kids, but I hate this song. I don't ever want to hear it again. I think the only thing that could possibly compete, which I'm starting to come back around on, is Old Town Road. I'm like, I just heard it so many times. But, in terms of craftsmanship, well done. Well done.
like it's a very good song. And I don't know if it was because, I would love to do a deep dive on that at some point, or for somebody who knows the answers of like what it was that really went into that becoming a big thing. Like it was, I don't know if that movie did very well at the box office, where it just was like, okay, cool, like we are gonna associate the song with the movie, but
Yeah.
like you said, just like Old Town Road, because those songs were able to tap in with the kids are singing it, and like that really helped just like put it in a different stratosphere. Like perfect example, like in 2013, this is at that time I was still working at University of Richmond. And like most schools do this where they have like at least like a men's or women's basketball game. They have it at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and they have a bunch of school kids come. Obviously, this is on the playlist. Like kids are going nuts in 2013. So, like 3,000 kids just screaming, singing the song, dancing, clapping. You know what I'm saying? Like that just was, it was everywhere. So like I mean like and you have to be in our role, like you have to have fan friendly music just on deck. So I think that song was on my playlist in my job, playing music at basketball games for maybe like from 2012 to probably 2015 or 16. Shit, I don't know. I probably just stopped playing it because I didn't
That
want
makes
to.
sense.
But it was huge. It was huge. But it's
I do
not
want to go
bad.
back to what you said. It's not a bad song. It's the overplay that I think has created the feeling in some of us that we feel. But in terms of box office performance, this is straight from Wikipedia. Despicable Me 2 earned 368 million in the United States and Canada and 602.7 million in other territories for a worldwide total of 970.8 million. It was the third highest grossing film of 2013. So yeah. Yeah, the movie had a lot to do with it, huh?
Okay, cool. Yeah, there you go. That makes sense.
Or inverse, right? It had a lot to do with the movie performing well. I don't know which way that relationship works, but it certainly, there are little kids in China singing happy.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And then like everyone doing their own video for it. Like just I don't think I watched one of
Yeah.
those. I barely watched the ones that Pharrell made himself. Like
So that is actually, I remember the video for that really well. And I want to say that Miley Cyrus was in it, which now is pinging like they were working together at that time, like duh. Um, but also I think I did watch some of those fan videos. And I think again, to talk about where the internet was, this is the point where I think people are starting to, every average day person was starting to understand like their ability to be seen if they put themselves on video, if they interact with celebrities and stuff like that. So I felt like this was a big moment where people were like taking their opportunity to be, on display. I think that's, one of the precluding events that we get to real culture, real and TikTok culture. So
yep, that's very
interesting in the relationship.
it definitely was very much one of the peak like ascension of the like aspirations to have viral internet moments.
Yeah.
Damn, the cultural impact of the song Happy, like needs
Yeah.
30 for like a whole documentary. Like, what are we doing? Oh man. Okay. Well, all that being okay. So song number 3, Happy. I'm gonna give it a thumbs up. Let's give it a thumbs up.
I will give it a thumbs up for everything it means. Don't play that song in my house.
I heard it the other day and I was like, this is like, it's a good song. Let's just leave it at that. It's a good song.
I'm hearing it right now. It's in the fibers of my DNA. Like, what are you talking about? So, I mean, if a song can get the fiber of your DNA, yes.
And Pharrell has
said
publicly on Twitter that like, somebody tweeted that was the most annoying song of all time, and he like quote tweeted and said like, or said something like he agreed with them or something that was funny. You got to be able to laugh at yourself. Shout out to P for that.
He's a good sport.
What a time. All right. Dope episode, dope conversation. At the end of the day, just want to say happy birthday to P. Thank you, bro. We appreciate you for 50 years of being on this earth and contributing your energy and greatness and creativity in so many different aspects of our culture, our society, our world. So we appreciate that, bro. Best wishes. Hope you enjoy it. Many more. Bo, you got anything?
Absolutely.
I
just hope somebody sings the Stevie Wonder happy birthday to you, Pharrell.
Yeah.
I hope you have a good time.
Yes. Sure that if someone plays a song for Pharrell on his birthday, it's Stevie Wonder and not Drake. No ratchet happy birthday. Nah. We're not playing that. Pharrell's too old for that.
Way beyond that. We're
I do think Ratchet Happy Birthday is a good song. I'm just saying.
I love that song. It's just not,
it's not for P. He's
turned 50. Yeah.
Turned 50. Yeah. This ain't no Ratchet Happy Birthday. This man is at the crib. Like
with his family, okay?
Family. Yes. So I didn't even, speaking of family, I didn't realize that Rocket is like 15 years old.
Yo, you're kidding me.
He was born apparently in 2008, according to the internet. I could be like, I mean, if the internet is correct, but that makes sense. It makes sense now that he's like, yeah.
Huh. Where does the time go, Vaughn?
Hey, man. I mean, for us turning 50, what do you mean?
Hey, I'm so confused about what age I am, which I won't be revealing on this podcast.
Right. I'm sure our loyal listeners can do the math. You guys can figure it out if you
y'all know what age I am. Yeah.
All right, Joe. Bo, appreciate you. Good to see you.
As always.
All of our fans and listeners, we appreciate you staying locked in to another episode of Neptunes Sunday. Make sure to tell P happy birthday when this comes out on April 5th. Catch you next time. His actual birthday. That's his actual birthday on April 5th. Tell him your favorite song. Tell him that you love Happy. Why is the dog barking? Where is he?
All right, go attend to your child.
Saturday, go enjoy the rest of your Saturday, Vogue. We'll catch you. Catch you later.
Peace out.
Peace out.